Um, I'm a chartered accountant and a certified financial planner, and I'm also involved with one NGO who is into ITI. If you read Mediclaim insurance contract, they talk about informing about hospitalization in 24 hours to 48 hours, and then claim submission in 7 days, after your discharge. Now, I am in this industry since last 10 years. The 24-hour intimation and claim submission in 7 days is not at all practical. And one more thing, Mediclaim companies are rejecting this claim only on technical ground. The other is the way TPA works. Clearly, they work in the interest of company and not in the interest of client. They deliberately reject the claim because they know in India, out of 100 people whose claims have been rejected, only 10 people will follow up with the case. And even if they follow, the insurance company or TPA really do not write. You have to write at least 10 to 12 reminders or use RTA. So, sir, please do something about this.
Oh, certainly, there's no question. But I would just like to correct you and not correct you. I would like to give a flavor of what we're talking about. If you take the year, last year, the claims settled were 38.43 lakh claims were settled. The claims rejected were 9.4. The total claims filed, obviously the sum of these two was 47.8. So out of 47 lakhs, 9 lakh claims are rejected. Yes. But to turn around and say that the insurance company are busy rejecting claims and so on and so forth is to forget the fact that in 82% of the claims are indeed paid. And last year, for example, the disbursal claim was 5,595 crores. So it's not as if these are small numbers. It's not as if the entire story is one of gloom and doom. No, not at all. And of course there are aberrations. There's no question about that. The question is, what kind of a system is this? What do you think should our mean tolerance level be? I think all of you are from the manufacturing capital here, you must have heard of sigma 6 and so on. What should be the error rate? What level? We have to move to a better and better error rate. But are we saying the error rate is dismal as it is, it's so bad and so on? No. I think the question really you should be asking the regulator, and I hope I'll be in a position to answer this to you better, is what are the systems that you put in place to reduce that? And what do the statistics show? The statistics which I am reading out to you are in the public domain. And you do have a look at it. I'm sure it can be improved and it will be. But it will improve, particularly if knowledgeable persons such as yourself take a critical look at it. There will be various things which are not really foregrounded in the regulatory approach, which we need to.
Only one. I appreciate the data given by you.
Talking to the mic. Only one other number and then I will stop. So, and if you have a look at the number of claims paid, we find 50% of the claims take more than 2 months to settle. 50% in other words take less. There are of course cases, 1% of the cases have taken more than 365 days, more than 1 year. Sure. But on the other hand, there is a little less which have been settled in less than 7 days. While these time limits are all there, and I think they ought to be there. We have also issued a regulation to insurance industries that you can't reject claims only because it was filed after 8 days or after 10 days or something. That can't be done. While it may be a good idea that you want and get your claims within 7 days, that's fine. But I think it's important to have some sense of timing across. But that cannot be the sole ground for rejection of the claim. Absolutely.
Sir, an agent who sells a traditional life insurance policy gets around 40% commission, while a unit product fetches in between 5 to 8%. Are we likely to see a level playing field as far as commission payouts are concerned in the life insurance industry?
It's not like that. I think a lot of misunderstanding has spread along the whole idea of commissions paid to agents. The life insurance contract presumes that payments over a longer period of time. So the percentage in India, we have adopted a system of front-loading commission. could have been any other. There are countries where it's backloaded. That is, you get your commission only at the end of the contract. In certain other countries, like in Hong Kong for example, it's even. Every year it's the same percentage. In India we are front-loaded. That is, you take a 40% of the first year's premium, and this model was developed at a time when premiums were steady. So it becomes 40%, next year is 15%, then it drops down to 5%, it remains 5% for the duration of the contract. If you take the normal insurance premium, it's a 15-year contract. And if you work out all the arithmetic, you will find in terms of the proportion of what is paid to the commission comes to about 8 to 8 point odd percentage over the lifetime. The only thing is, it's loaded in front. Okay. Now, if you have a look at what happens typically in other businesses, like for example, if you take a mutual fund, I think that's what you're asking. In a mutual fund, every time a transaction takes place, the fee is charged. So supposing I'm notionally getting 2%, but supposing I buy and sell 10 times, I get 20. Every time I get 2%. And that's what really is happening. See, the nature of the business of the two is different. To just look at one headline figure for both is perhaps doesn't really capture the flavor of what is happening.
Good evening, sir. This is regarding contribution clause in medical policies. This is regarding contribution clause in medical policies, Mediclaim policies. Contribution clause. It's a contribution because if somebody is having more than two policies, okay, more than one policy, and if like the claim amount is say 5 lakhs, and you have a policies altogether say 10 lakhs rupees, how the contribution clause works? Because I want a clarity. Because if one policy is sufficient enough to cover that 5 lakhs rupees claim, can insurance company use that contribution clause?
I would say it's logical, but I don't know. I will have to examine what exactly is the legal position behind that.
This is regarding the Mediclaim. I am 70 years old. I had Mediclaim taken about 30 years back. At that time I had taken for about 4 lakhs, which I thought was sufficient. Now, a couple of years back, I wanted to increase it. The insurance company was very reluctant. What I am trying to say is, if I survive for another 15 years, then 4 lakhs will just cover my tooth. Why don't you all increase it proportionate to the medical cost which is going up? At least inflation or something. How can you say that you cannot increase it?
The issue is not increasing the total sum assured.
We are going to pay for it. I am going to pay for the insurance. But still they are reluctant to increase it. I mean, this is very unfair. I mean, the cost of the hospital and all that is going up by 10 times, and I can't increase it by 20%.
I don't know how that can be addressed. The problem is there. Perhaps the way forward would be maybe the Mediclaim base itself should be increased. But then what will happen? I'm not very sure what might be the effect on the premium cost, how much that will increase. And you're paying 17,000, 18,000. I'm paying 33. So it's okay, it might go up. But the point is they may be dealing with a different set of problems if we go up. But this is a thought, and I think what we have said is valuable. And let me have an example, because I won't be able to give an offhand comment on a pricing issue. But I do believe me, I do see the concern which you are expressing, and it's a valuable point.
In a country where people don't understand insurance contract, shouldn't we have a standard contract that everybody understands, and companies only be allowed to build on top of a standard contract and charge extra for it? But there should be a certain minimum acceptable standard contract which everybody understands. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Well, let me say that we are moving in that direction in 3 different elements. We have, for instance, the IRDA has, after consultation with all the concerned experts and so on, figured out what is the standard list of exclusions. Okay, that's been standardized. What is the standard list of critical diseases? What is the standard list of not allowable charges? what can't be charged, or rather which contracts will not cover. What are the standard definitions of pre-existing diseases? And finally, the pattern of the bill and the pattern of the discharge summary which the hospital has to issue. These are the set of areas where we are trying to standardize, mandate and so on. But going beyond this to mandating, for example, medical procedures and protocols, I think is way beyond the remit of an insurance authority. It should squarely be within the remit of a medical authority. But to give some flavor of medical inputs into this entire structure, this is precisely why we have formed this health insurance forum, to enable an interaction between the insurance industry, the medical industry and the medical regulator.
So shouldn't consumers representatives also be on the...
Yes, there was a point which was actually also raised, that there is only one consumer and rather one consumer representative. But if you have a look at it, we got 6 hospitals, no, we got 6 insurance companies. We have, I recall right, 12 hospitals, 12 medical establishments, and then 4 or 5 medical regulators. So the weightage is towards the medical side, this structure. But perhaps the consumer representation, one is too, let's say, inadequate. But we'll see how this evolves in this. Sorry.
Sir, I'm an agent for the past 37 years. I mean, you might not agree with me if I tell you how much of a harassment this TPA does to us. I mean, because I take upon myself as a agent and I do not allow my client to sort of take that, because I take that responsibility. As he said, rightly said, within 24 hours, the claim intimation is not possible. Okay? As for me, I have made it possible in hundreds of cases, in 100%, let me tell you, that the claim intimations are sent within 24 hours, before 7 days, claim submitted within 7 days, before 7 days, or it will be 5 days or 6 days, still the letter comes, your claim is repudiated for the what should I say, for time bar. Okay.
Would you direct all these TPAs and others as a chief that claims should not be rejected on such technical matters? I think that alone will tell a lot. Has been told that small technical matters should not be raised and the claim should not be rejected merely on that if the case merits the disease and the treatment merits compensation. Yeah, I think that much you could do.
No, I'd like to address this in this way. That is, that if a claim is rejected on grounds of technical, I mean rather medical kind of reasons, there should be an avenue for an appeal against that, for a medical panel or something like that. Because it's a dispute on a technical matter.
My point is why it should be rejected, why it should be repudiated at all, why it should be repudiated at all. What is the hardship? Anybody who is being admitted in the hospital faces the hardship. The parents, tomorrow, God forbid, anything happens to me, who will send my claim intimation?
A very sound and perhaps correct emotional and human way of addressing insurance issues. But I don't think that is not how financial contracts are built. And I think that is the rub of the matter, especially when it comes to health issues, because there is a tremendous emotional load at that point, and a human concern, surely. The question is whether these two can be met and how best they can be met together. But they are not excused. Some of the examples which you listed.
I'm referring to the time limitations for intimation and lodging of claim, 2 and 7 days. Your reaction to that was that you appreciate the difficulties of the insured or the claimant to adhere to those time limits, but that is not how financial contracts are built. Yes, that is true, but nonetheless, these time limits, 2 and 7 days, don't you think it is too short? Because the rationale behind providing any time limits is that the evidence should not go cold, and both the insured and the insurer should have a reasonable chance, reasonable opportunity to look into the available evidence. You also said that you have given instructions that claims should not be rejected on technical grounds. Only on technical grounds. But nonetheless, that means if you give those instructions, as far as the insured is concerned, he is depending upon a largest on a waiver of the contract. So why not look into at a realistic level that today families are getting short. The person, the insured who calls sick, he doesn't have an army of relatives to run around and motivate and file claims. So why not enlarge these limits to maybe instead of 2 and 7 days, let us say 10 and 30 days or something like that. Yes. Because after all, the insurer is not going to pay unless there is sufficient paper evidence, and he's had his experts look into those. That's my question.
Well, you may have a point. Maybe the intimation of getting into a hospital within 24 hours, I don't see why it is so onerous, honestly. What is the difficulty in intimating the hospital, or rather the TPA, if you are in the hospital? What is the particular problem with that? After all, the person in the hospital, unless he is comatose, hang on, he is informed all his family members.
Sir, all the insured are...
I find generally, I mean, whenever, that's why as a general rule is fine. You are citing me an exception. Some person in this condition, yes, he can't do it. Granted, of course. No doubt. But I'm saying as a generality of matters, I find that anything when there is a time limit thing, we are accountable.
But many TPs don't have a policy.
And I don't see widening the time limit necessarily makes matters simpler. The question is, a valid one, in how many cases has the rejection been solely on the ground that instead of within 7 days it was filed on the 8th day or something?
A very short time limit puts extra pressure and makes the task of the insured more onerous. Why do that? What is the rationale behind it?
Rationale behind?
Behind having such a short limit. You mentioned that why can the CPA not...
Fundamentally to prevent fraud.
Why would fraud be... why would you have more opportunity for fraud if you enlarge the time limit? Yes. I don't see why the opportunity or the chances
I tell you why.
are enlarged.
Certain companies, or in certain TPAs, when an intimation comes, they actually send the TPA to check whether the person is really in the hospital or not.
No, sir.
In general insurance,
He's giving the experience, and his experience has not been true. But there have been cases, for example, sir, I don't have a friend. Hospitals will give a welcome call. Sir, I have to go to to check whether he's comfortable or not. I respect so, but fundamentally, time limits are there because of fraudulent claims.
Claim is not entertained if I do not give the access to the insurance company, they will not settle my claim. Now, is there any way you can advise us to how to go by access be retained with us? Report, they can give paper report, they can give to them because they can make a copy thereof and keep it with us. But all originals they can give except a plastic urologist report. I think we can do something on that. Thank you.
In fact, I'm let's say, educated by this particular observation. Let's have a look at it.
Sir, they feel reports of everyone.
Okay, one history asking. Absolutely the last question.
Other societies have handled that particular problem on documentation separately. For instance, the documents are never in the hands of the patient, in any case. All it is always in the hands of the hospital. And I'm just telling you about what happens in certain other societies or social structures of medicines, hospitals and insurance companies. And in some it is mandated that the document is no doubt on the set of documents and records are with the hospital, never with the patient. But then the hospital is supposed to upload them in an appropriate structured way onto the web. And there's a portal for it. And in fact there's an entire law which requires all this to be done. It is still in the infancy. It will articulate itself. In fact, even today, there are several cases where BPOs in India operate on this basis. The actual doctor is investigating things somewhere, outside, well outside the country. And fundamentally, all the back office job is being done here. Right. Including examination of technical documents such as X-rays.
Okay, the very last question.
Sent over here and studied here. And then, in fact, that is the basis of e-medicine. So, all of that is possible.
Is there a specific reason why the industry for critical illness has not evolved in India? Is it a lack of data? Is it a lack of risk-taking ability? What is the reason why the critical illness industry has not really evolved to the levels that it should have?
Well, fundamentally, it's a question of who's going to take a risk. Now, every insurance company has a policy where it will take the risk on its own books, or the insurance industry itself can pass on that risk to a reinsurance mechanism. So supposing you have a risk in the case of, let us say, hypothetically, let's say there's a critical illness cover for crore or whatever. The insurance industry may not take that risk on its book. In fact, there are some insurance industries where the amount of risk they take on their own books is less today than what it was some time ago. Then what happens, that entire risk then is passed on to a reinsurance company. And for that particular case, what this company is really doing is applying, fronting is too strong a word, but they are managing a risk. Ultimately, it makes no sense if all the risk is sitting on the insurance company, then we have not de-risked the whole system. Systems must get de-risked. You require reinsurance. You want risk to be spread as widely as possible. So it is not fronting which has got other implications. But what will happen when underwriting that case or when settling a claim on that matter, these considerations will prevail. Though there is an increasing tendency now to move in that direction. It will happen.
Thank you, sir, for an excellent interaction and for answering our questions so patiently.